Okay, now I have decided to go back and visit the very first of the lost cemeteries that I did. The little unnamed African American cemetery that's off of Porto Madrid Boulevard, because I like to try and keep a complete file, and this is all evolving as we go. And unfortunately, I just walked through the wrong kind of plant, and I'm completely covered in stickleburs. And if anyone is interested, there are a couple of big shagbark hickories here, and literally the ground is just absolutely covered in hickory nuts. So if you want some free nuts, come and check this out. But anyway, we're here for the cemetery, which is up here in the woods. So let's go and see what might have changed since the last time I was here. Probably not too much. Alright, now here's an unmarked grave. And this one actually you can kind of see, even in the video. And there's another one right there. And one there. One over there that looks like it's developed into a hole. Yeah, that is definitely a hole. Let's go kind of peek. Something, animal or vegetable or mineral, has been digging down in there. And walking through here is definitely a hazard because there's like collapsed grave, a very collapsed grave there. It's enough that if I do this, you might be able to just see exactly how far down that goes, because if I just go straight across there, you can see the depression. One there, just all in a row right here. And over there are two of the standing stones. Here is a just rock stone marking that one. There's a stone there marking that one. Let's kind of maneuver through all of this. This cemetery, like I said in the Cemetery Saturday, has somewhere a rough estimate of 150 to 200 graves. This is no little cemetery. Here is a stone. There is a outline, a complete adult-sized cradle outlining the grave here. Stones and collapsed graves up here. Another one over there. Several unmarked graves through here. And over here is a couple of these actual functioning stones. This one, because it is set into a complete concrete lidded grave. And this is Mr. Banks, who I posted a picture of on the Instagram, I believe. And then Miss Ridley, which this nice lady, I presume she was a nice lady. You know, you don't talk bad of the dead usually. She is the one that clued me into the fact that this is not a a cemetery for the miners on Ruffner Mountain, because Miss Ridley is the lady who owned the house that is on Oporto Madrid. The house doesn't exist anymore, but it is where the daycare center is now. So that's what clued me to the fact that this is actually a African American community graveyard, not just a miners cemetery. Now there was, and hopefully still is, a stone over here that is nice and tall and impressive, and it's actually the best stone in the cemetery. I just need to find it. Where? It was over this direction. You know, like I said, I have actually been to this cemetery before. It's a little, oh, there it is. It's a little further up. As I work my way through unmarked graves and vegetation, because this is a totally abandoned, totally overgrown, unkempt, in the woods cemetery. More hickory nuts. Lots and lots of hickory nuts up here. Here is a stone in a grave. Grave there. Grave there. Pair of graves up here. There's one stone marking. There's a couple of stones here, so I'm presuming I'm actually standing on that one. You know, these depressions are so hard to see on the video, but if you're here, they're obvious as all hell. And I am headed up towards this stone, which is the largest stone that's actually in the cemetery and the one that is the fanciest. Here's a little footstone marking a grave, and a tree's grown up in it. I'm gonna swing around here. Here's a, if I remember correctly, yeah, it's a stone with nothing engraved on it. It's just a concrete slab. And when I talk about not being able to afford proper markers, this is an example of you mark what you can, and it may have had painting on it at some time, but that has long ago worn away. Then here is Mr. Smith, who is the most impressive stone that is actually standing. (1884 to 1916). There may be other stones here, but you know, they've fallen and are in the vegetation. You know, there are assorted unmarked graves going off that direction, several over there, and they rock along in nice neat rows going off into the woods. Here is a stone up here. Let me step over this collapsed grave. Stone marking, footstone, headstone. Here is an old stone that has been busted and is nigh on unreadable nowadays. You could probably get a rubbing off of it. And that's about all the marked graves that are in the cemetery that are not just little stones. There are a ton of unmarked graves, and when I do a video on grave markers, we'll talk about how in economic times you can't always afford a proper marker. So, you know, you would have wood, which rots away, or you will just put something like this to mark a grave. And sometimes on these you will see where they just hand scratched a date or maybe initials, and I've shown a couple of those in the cemetery exploration videos like I'm doing right now. Unfortunately, this one, as far as I know, does not have any of those hand scratched stones. Let's see, here is a row of rocks outlining the grave on one side or the other, and I would be willing to bet it's the one on this side with the broken stone. But there's not extant stones I can see over there, so very likely they've either been robbed out or they're just buried in the weeds and the brush here. Stones here, unmarked graves there. There's like a stone marking a grave that has fallen. So this is an extensive cemetery. There is a stone that's fallen up here. And this is the cemetery I did my very first Cemetery Saturday video on, where I got kind of irate because people do actually go up into cemeteries like this and they steal the stones and vandalize them and everything. Now this particular one, there's not a whole lot to vandalize. You know, there's just the unfortunate instance where people will rob graves, basically. One of the things when you're looking through the woods and you're trying to find a unmarked cemetery complete with poison oak is you'll see stuff like this, which are not native plants, but they do get planted in cemeteries. And if you spot that, then that's where you start looking around for things like this and collapsed and unmarked graves. There's a fallen stone over there, but I'm trying to figure out how to get to it through the vegetation. As you can see, I mean, this goes on and on and on. I mean, this is a fairly big cemetery to be a lost and unnamed. And here's where you can see where a tree has fallen. There's the collapsed grave under it. It's knocked over the stone here. Let's see if I can walk on this without breaking my leg. I'll cover this a little bit for Miss Mary Bostic, who died in 1934. And then there's a stone there. Here's where a stone has fallen, and it's either buried in the underbrush or somebody took it. And that square would actually probably have been a pillar of some sort. Either one of the little pyramid top square Victorian pillars or something else. And it doesn't seem to be just laying in the grass or the woods here. So probably somebody actually took it away, which is sad, because it would have on it the information of the person that is most likely buried right there. Let's see what this one is over here. Now this obviously got knocked over by a tree. Nicely carved. And I disturbed ants. Miss Bostic, 1852 to 1921. Rocks and unmarked graves, multiple rocks and unmarked graves going off in that direction and that way. So this is a pretty big cemetery. And this is the kind of cemetery that is lost and really needs to be researched and preserved, and that's what I am doing with this project. So check out the linked First Cemetery Saturday video. Please subscribe. Click the little link on the right that shows me holding a lantern, and subscribe so you can see all of these videos and see what in the world I find when I'm walking through the woods. Thank you very much, and have a nice day.